This is going to be the start of a chapter book. Now, it's a fiction book, which means it's not real, it's made up. So somebody thought of it in their head and they put it into here. So it's the opposite of a fact book, which is the non-fiction book, which we've got some on here about elephants and rhinos, and we've got some about unusual traditions. But this one is a made-up book and it's fiction, and it's called The Cat Who Got Carried Away. And the other nice thing about this book is it's chapters. It's quite a long book. You can see it's quite thick. So I'm going to read a few chapters, and this is the first part. And then if you look on the YouTube channel, you'll find the other bits for the next chapters and the next chapters. So you can just do it in little tiny chunks. So this is written by Alan Ahlberg up here. That's the author. And as we've done in my class, you sometimes find that on the spine of the book. That's this bit here. And you've got The Cat Who Got Carried Away. That's the title of the book. And then you've got the author just at the top there. So, in this grand and gripping gasket story, we've got Gus and Gloria, the Gasket twins, and they have a lot of running around to do. We've got Mr. Gasket, who spends most of his time hoovering. Mrs. Gasket, who hardly ever gets out of bed, but I think we find out at the end why that is. And Horace, the cat. And he ends up in a pet shop in this book. And it's also got a rat named Randolph, a guinea pig named Morris, and a teacher named Mrs. Fritter, not to mention a mysterious gang of... They're going to tell us about those later. So, Chapter 1, The Barking Pram. Early one evening, the Gaskets were at home, sitting side by side on Mr. and Mrs. Gasket's bed. All except Mrs. Gasket. She was in bed. Why is it that she's in bed? It's only 7:30. Anyway, there they were, drinking tea, eating biscuits, and looking at the family photo album. So looking at all pictures of when they were babies and maybe their grandma and grandpa. There was a photo of Gus and Gloria when they were little, and a photo of Horace when he was a kitten, and a photo of Mr. and Mrs. Gasket dancing on our honeymoon, Mr. Gasket. That's a holiday that you have after you get married. But what about us? Where were we born? Were we born when you went on your honeymoon? The children cried. Not quite, said Mrs. Gasket. We had the house to ourselves. Yes, said Mr. Gasket. It was lovely. And Gloria punched him. I mean, it was boring, said Mr. Gasket. And Gus hit him with a pillow. So they're having a laugh and a joke. Meanwhile, Horace was outside sitting on the garden wall, watching the world go by. He saw a boy on a bike, a boy on a skateboard, a woman in a car, and finally, on the other side of the road, a man absolutely whizzing along with an old pram. And the strange thing was, which Horace noticed, the strange thing was the pram, woof, woof, was barking. I've never heard of that. Have you? A pram that's barking. Chapter 2, Fried Egg and Pineapple. The next morning, everybody got up. Gus and Gloria got up and went to school. Mr. Gasket got up and went shopping. Mrs. Gasket got up, got the paper and the post and a cup of tea and a cream donut, and then she went back to bed. Goodness me. Meanwhile, Horace was out on the garden wall again, hoping to see and hear that mysterious pram. Well, Horace didn't see the pram this time, but Mr. Gasket did. So here's Mr. Gasket in his red car. He was in the car at the school crossing, and there it was, the same as before, with the same man, just whizzing along, but not barking though. Oh no, it was more like a squeaking, Mr. Gasket thought. So the pram now isn't going woof woof, it's going ee. Wonder what that is. When Gus and Gloria got to school, they found that something dreadful had happened. Randolph, clever, lovable Randolph, the class rat, squeak, squeak, had disappeared. And Mrs. Fritter, while trying to find him, that's their teacher, had fallen out of the window. She's a bit clumsy, maybe. The children, of course, were terribly upset. Poor Randolph, they cried. Poor Randolph. And oh yes, poor Mrs. Fritter. I don't think she's hurt herself, though. By this time, Mr. Gasket was in the supermarket filling his trolley. Horace was visiting a friend who seemed to be out, so he's going in through a little cat flap there, look, which is a little door for cats. And Mrs. Gasket was also out of bed. She was downstairs in the sitting room watching TV with a mug of hot chocolate and a fried egg and pineapple, peculiar, fried egg and pineapple sandwich. Meanwhile, somewhere not very far away, that pram was still whizzing along, and now we've got a map in this story. So let's follow this pram trail, shall we? Here's a useful map, and it shows where the pram has been so far this morning and where it's going. And here's a big white van with a ramp, and now the pram is being pushed inside the van. So let's see, where did the pram maybe start? I think it's done this. It's come at this red dotted line here. It's come down here, and it's gone into this house, and it's gone down here, and it's gone around this road, and it's gone all the way along here. This is the school. It's come out of the school. It's gone all the way back along here, and now the pram is going into the white van. It's very peculiar. What's going on? And look, there's Horace on the wall outside his friend's house again. Let's see if we can see Horace. I don't know if I can. Oh, I can see him. Can you see Horace on the map there? He's at the top, just under where it says map 1. Horace, just there. Horace is a smart cat. Well, he thinks he is. And he's thinking now that if he sits here for a while, his friend will show up or something interesting might happen, and it probably will. Chapter 3. Meet Mr. Cruncher. Back at school, Gus and Gloria and the other children were in the classroom whispering about Randolph. Poor Randolph, we miss Randolph. And waiting for the supply teacher, Mrs. Fritter. She got cuts and bruises, so she's gone home in a taxi. And the supply teacher's going to come, and suddenly, bang! The classroom door flies open, the windows rattle and the floor shakes, and there he was, very tall, very wide, with great big heavy bag, and his name was Mr. Cruncher. Mr. Cruncher was a PE teacher and a keep fit fiend. That means bonkers about keep fit. He had been in the army and he had been in the navy, and he was a man of few words, and he loved running. Mr. Blagg, the head teacher, shook hands with Mr. Cruncher, saying, hello, that's a nice way we meet people when we're trying to be social. And he wished he hadn't, because look, I think Mr. Cruncher's hand might be so big and strong, he squished the head teacher's hand because he's really big. Mr. Cruncher said, good morning, class, and the windows rattled again, and after that lessons began. During the morning, Mr. Cruncher taught reading, writing and running, but mostly running. There were obstacle races in the classroom, relay races in the hall, and laps and laps and laps. That's going round and round and round the school field. By lunchtime, Gus and Gloria and the others had forgotten Randolph, and they were puffing, and they were gasping, and they were even sleeping on the grass. They're tired out. Meanwhile, where's Horace? He was on that wall when we last saw him, wasn't he? But he's not there now. Meanwhile also, where's the pram? Well, it's still whizzing along, look. Down the road, round the corner, up the ramp and into the van. It seems a bit odd, that pram, doesn't it? Let's take a closer look. Let's see what sort of baby they've got in there. Let's see closer and closer and meow. Oh no, they've got Horace. And you can just see its ears peeping out. So we're going to pause it there because the next chapter is chapter 4. And if you go and look, you'll be able to find chapter 4 in the next few chapters for your next time of sitting down to have a story.